Joro spiders. You've probably heard of these guys recently in the news. Some headlines like giant venomous spiders prep for parachuting Joro spiders. Giant parachuting Joro spiders could arrive in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware this summer. East Coast braces for invasion of palm-sized venomous spiders capable of flying. How much of this is fear-mongering and how much of it is rightful fear? Do we actually have giant venomous flying spiders invading our country? Should we be hiding our kids, our wives, and our husbands?
So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
Let's take a step back for a second. There's a lot of trigger words that are being used in this. Giant, venomous, flying, and spiders. The first 4 words in this particular USA Today article. So I want to break it down by trigger word. The first one we're going to talk about is venom. All spiders, except for the Alaboridae, I'm terrible with Latin, Alaboridae, are venomous. Pretty much all spiders, except for that one family, are venomous. But of about the 38,000 spider species that we know of, only around 100 of them actually have medically significant venom to people, which is less than 0.2% of the spiders that we know of. And most of those, it's medically significant. That doesn't necessarily mean it's deadly. That just means that it could cause issues. It could cause like necrosis, some like skin issues, like muscle deterioration, stuff like that. In the US, there's less than 3 deaths on average per year as a result of spider bites. Just for reference, this is a list of things that are more likely to kill you than spiders. Car accidents by a shitload, accidental poisoning, bike accidents, excessive cold, the sun, heat exposure, lightning. Actually being struck by lightning is many times, like 10 times more likely than dying from a spider bite. Train crashes, icicles, especially if you live in Russia, champagne corks, hot dogs. A surprising number of people die from choking on hot dogs. Like, a hot dog is a very common food for people to choke on. Eat hot dogs with caution. Coconuts, and more. And for the record, since the Joro spider is the subject of this video and all of this media hoopla, I do want to point out it is not one of those 100 spider species that has medically significant venom to people. So there's not really a need to mention the venomous part. Just saying spider really takes care of that. But next I want to talk about size. These are large spiders. This is not to scale. This is very large because it's a TV screen. There's no debating that they're big. But the picture that people get in their head when you say palm-sized, that would be a very big spider, and I don't think is accurate for what most people are imagining. Like I said, this is a Joro spider. I honestly think it's very pretty. I think their colors are very nice. I think it's an interesting shape. It's got reds, it's got greens, it's got yellows, it's got these really long legs. They're really, really cool. And they're large enough that if you come in contact with them, you should probably notice, because these are not house dwellers. These are not spiders that are going to come into your house and you're going to find hanging out in your basement. They like to be outside. They're going to make their webs outside, and they're generally going to be at a height that you're going to see them. They're not going to be on the ground, generally speaking. You would see them before you walk into them, unless you're looking down at your phone or something like that, in which case, I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But the image that most people get when you say the term palm-sized is a spider that's like the size of my hand, like the body part of the spider being the size of my palm, which is not the case here because that is an adult human finger. They are, as you can see, quite leggy. They've got very long legs. Their legs can get up to like 4 inches long, which can be unnerving to some people. But as you can see, it's not huge. Like, at their largest, they get to maybe the size of like the 2 first segments of my pinky, and saying a spider is 1 to 2 knuckles of your pinky certainly hits a lot different than saying it's palm-sized and isn't going to alarm people as much and cause them to click on your article. Also, because they're large, I do just want to point this out, you can see their pedipalps here. which a lot of people think are fangs. People will see these and they'll think that they're fangs, that they could see the giant fangs of the spider. These are not fangs. These are called pedipalps. Spiders have 8 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They all come out of the cephalothorax, which is the first body segment that you see right here. You can see none of them come out of the abdomen. Somebody should tell children's book authors. In fact, if you happen to want to see it, this is a full internal diagram of a spider. Cephalothorax is here, abdomen is back here. You can see it's got a bunch of things back here, including its sperm receptacle. This is a female, the oviduct, the anus back here, the spinnerets, which is where all of the silk is made. I'm going to leave this up here for just a second. Go ahead and pause the video if you want to see it closer. Excellent, we're moving on now. But in addition to the 8 legs, you can see up here, we've got these 2 things. These are not the fangs. The fangs would be right here. These are the pedipalps, which are basically these little appendages that the spiders can sometimes use almost as hands because they have like little hooks on them. And they'll use these oftentimes for feeding. Unless they're a male, and I have to put this in here because animal sex facts kind of my thing. Because males use their pedipalps. What they do is they reach back to their spinnerets, they get a little ball of silk, they come up, they put some sperm inside that ball, and then they go to the female and try to stick that sperm packet right here on her sperm receptacle, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, some other arachnids like scorpions also have pedipalps, but in the case of the scorpion, the pedipalp is very, very large. Unmistakable. You are going to notice this because it's turned into a giant claw. Anyway, like I said, these are large spiders. But saying palm-sized, although may be accurate if you're talking about a large Joro spider, a smaller palm, and you're measuring from like leg tip to leg tip, paints a scarier picture than what reality is. We've covered so far venom and size, so the next thing I want to talk about is flying, because even though it's not as large as people think, this thing flying around would even make me shit my pants. So, good news, that's not what's happening. In fact, what is actually happening, at least I think, is somehow even more cool. When they first hatch, and this is a little image of a teeny tiny little baby spider, they are a little larger than a speck of dust. And they will release a few strands of silk into the air to try to catch some wind. This is like some images, so like the spider's just kind of releasing some little silk strands, and then it eventually catches flight as the wind catches it and blows it away. This is called ballooning. This is another image of a spider with the little silk strands trying to take. This is different. This is not a Joro spider, but it's just a good image for you to be able to see. Depending on the wind, the spider can be carried anywhere from just like very close to where it is to like 100 miles away, which is much further than they would ever be able to make it if they were walking, probably in their entire lives. So why are they doing this? Well, it enables them to be able to spread out quite a bit. When you're a new baby spider, you hatch in the same place as all of your brothers and sisters. And there can be, depending on the spider species, anywhere from around 100 of you in one spot to a few thousand baby spiders that are right there next to you, all competing for the same food and resources that you are. So being able to catch some wind and move to a different area enables you to be able to have a little bit more space for just you to look for food. More food just for you. It also increases the likelihood that if you find another member of your species that you want to make babies with, it won't be your brother or sister. Less boinking with your brother and sister. That's a good thing because genetic diversity is good. Pure bloodlines are pretty much only prized by dog breeders, royals, and those who don't understand genetics and biology and for some reason brag about the amount of inbreeding that they have in their family tree. So they're not technically flying as they don't have powered flight, but they can catch mad wind. And when this is happening, it's not really something you need to be concerned of. Like I said, it's not happening when they're a large adult where they've got the really, really leggy bit and all of the images that you see when you look up Joro spiders. It's when they're very, very tiny and you're not going to notice them. And honestly, there are things that are bigger than baby Joro spiders that are going to be more harmful to you, like mosquitoes, because these pesky little blood-sucking assholes spreading malaria and West Nile virus and Zika virus and my apologies, I got carried away. By the time the Joro spider is this large, it is far too big to be able to fly around just by releasing a few strands of silk to get caught in the wind. So now we've moved on to the last point, which is these invading the United States. So this is not a new thing with Joro spiders. They've been in the United States since at least 2013. We believe they originally came in some like shipping containers from Japan, which is where they originally are from. They have been reproducing and expanding in the southeast down here, and have been getting more noticeable in recent years as their populations have continued to grow. Obviously, as there's more of them, you're going to notice them more. Now, I do just want to point out that some people will confuse the Joro spider with the golden silk orb weaver, which is actually a native spider to the southeastern United States. And that's because they look fairly similar. Now, the interesting thing about the Joro spider compared to our native friend over here is that they are far more cold tolerant. And that means they are able to survive much further north. Scientists think that they can pretty much survive all the way up the eastern seaboard of the United States. And when you combine that with the ballooning that they do as babies that can carry them up to 100 miles away from where they were born, they're expected this year to be making it up to like Delaware, New Jersey, and New York. New York, where a not insignificant number of our news media outlets are based, which is why when stuff tends to hit New York, it becomes a really big deal in the news. Everybody's talking about it. Now, invasive species are a problem for ecosystems. That is just a fact of invasive species. A best case scenario is that they have no impact to wildlife. That's a best case scenario. Doesn't happen super frequently. More often, either they could negatively impact prey species, which are going to be the animals that they are eating, or they can negatively impact species sharing the same ecological niche as them. Meaning, if they're competing for the same food as a native animal and they are more equipped and maybe reproduce faster or something like that, they can put stress on that native animal as food resources start to dwindle. Now, there is some debate that is happening with scientists right now. Some scientists are saying that we don't have evidence of them outcompeting native species, and the food sources that they tend to eat, things like flies, mosquitoes, etc., are both plentiful and pests for humans, so they're kind of doing us a service. That said, there are other scientists that believe that this particular line of thinking is very reckless because we oftentimes don't know the impact of invasive species until it's kind of too late and they've been there and they've already done the damage, which is also an accurate point. Obviously, we need to do a better job of making sure that we don't introduce new species to new areas as we continue with things like global trade, global travel, etc. Now, invasive species are not usually intentionally introduced, unless we're talking about cane toads in Australia, which were introduced originally to control the cane beetles, only for us to find out that they don't actually eat the cane beetles, but do like to eat pretty much everything else in Australia. Also, they're hella poisonous, so everything that would normally be eating frogs in Australia have been dying as they eat them. It's kind of a problem. Also, cats. There are very few invasive species that are more damaging than cats. Shout out to cats, driving more animals to extinction than any other invasive species on the planet. But they're so cute with the little eyes and the little nose and the little being responsible for 1/4 of all mammal and bird and reptile extinctions that have happened in the world. Oh! Instead, most invasive species are accidentally introduced. Something hitches a ride on a ship, in a food shipment, etc. And this can lead to devastation for the new environments that those species end up in. So this is a real concern with the Joro spiders, but we've yet to see how big of a problem it will actually be. But when you hear the term invading and they're an invasive species, it's that they accidentally got here and they've been expanded. It's not like they're getting on little spider jets and flying across the ocean to try to invade America. They've been here for more than a decade and they're just continuing their move north. So to sum it up, I can't say that saying large, venomous, flying spiders are invading the United States is wrong, because it's not. Like, all of those words are accurate, at least in part, but it's definitely misleading. And this shines just another light on the fact that news outlets are in the business of capturing your attention. And I don't think that this is ultimately a healthy thing for our society, but I'm not going to really dive into that topic or test those waters right now. What I am going to tell you is that it is okay for you to release your kids, your wives, and your husbands, because the Joro spiders, they're not as scary as everybody's made them seem. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something today. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button below and tell me down in the comments what it was you learned and found most interesting about this video. And if you want to see more animal science content like this moving forward, go ahead and hit that subscribe and the little bell down below so that you know when we post new videos in the future. I really enjoy making videos like this. I plan on making them more. I've made them like this on TikTok in the past, and I'm trying to move a lot of that content over here to YouTube. I thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end, and have a fantastic rest of your day.